Good afternoon. We'll go ahead and get our program started today. Thanks for such a great turnout. This is really great. I think the cold air is getting people in, want to start talking to people. So thank you so much for having a great turnout for our keynote today from Franklin PUD and Scott Reese to give us an update on what's happening there. So my name is Colin Hastings. I'm the Executive Director of the Pasco Chamber of Commerce. And at this time, I'd like to invite you to join me with our Pledge of Allegiance. So if you could please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please have a seat. We always like to start out our program here with introducing elected officials that have made it here today. I know that Rocky Mullen, Franklin County Commissioner, RSVP'd, but I didn't see him come in. So we'll move on down the list. From the Port of Pasco, I don't see anyone either. Well, geez, I mean, the election's over. I guess nobody wants to show up. However, I have to be nice today. I told Stu I'd be nice, but from Franklin PUD, I know that Roger Wright is supposed to be here, but then, of course, Stu Nelson. So let's give Stu a big round of applause. I might have to be nice next month because it's Christmas time, and I want to be good for. It's not going to be until next year until I'm mean to you again. So we have a few updates I want to run through with what's been happening at the Pasco Chamber. You'll see on your tables there that our Ag Hall of Fame is right around the corner. Before you know that, we're going to be back here in the red line celebrating the newest inductees into the Ag Hall of Fame. We have a good class this year. We're not ready to make the announcement yet. But the committee did meet last week. Was it last week already? Time flies. And put together quite a bit of time to review so many nominations, deserving individuals as well too, and couples that they don't have an easy task going through and selecting someone from their peers. So stay on the lookout for more information on the Ag Hall of Fame. It'll be July 19th here at the Red Lion. It's a Thursday. We're happy to have Port of Pasco once again be our premier sponsor and many other supporting sponsors as well too. So we're really excited to have all the support. It's no secret to folks in Franklin County and the Pasco Chamber that the agriculture economy is really what drives us and is definitely the foundation of that. And so it's a privilege to have the Pasco Chamber lead the 22nd year or 23rd year of the Ag Hall of Fame to honor those individuals and people that have made a difference. And then before you know it, we have our nonprofit showcase coming up too. That's going to be a little bit earlier this year. We picked December 5th. It's kind of somewhat of a new event, but I'd like to refresh what that event is about because we haven't had it in a couple years. What started out as a few years ago with our December luncheon was kind of a celebration of the holiday season, and we thought that would coincide with the holiday season is to provide an opportunity to showcase nonprofits in the area, charitable nonprofits that really make an impact in our community. And it got to the point where we would have a handful come up and give an elevator speech, and then we'd have more the following year. And so with the help of some big sponsors, that we're able to turn it into a trade show expo. And we'll have that here at the Red Line December 5th with the help of Amazon. They provided the sponsorship so that we can provide, I think we have about 40, Kelly, is that where we're at? 40 free exhibits for charitable nonprofits to talk about what their impact is. And so it starts a little bit earlier, I think at 11 a.m. We'll have the lunch, normally at noon. And then afterwards, the trade show will continue on. What's neat about this event too is GISA steps up. They were a partner right at the beginning of this event, and to help kind of add a little bit more juice to the donations, GISA basically matches up to $10 for everybody that shows up for the lunch to donate to their favorite charity that day. So it's important to register. Everybody that registers will get what we call a GISA buck, and it will enhance whatever donations that you want to make to your favorite charity that you get to know that day. So thank you to GISA and Amazon. Let's give them a round of applause for helping us out with this. And I also want to say too that we're already booked out for the expo. So if you have any interest or you know an organization that should be a part of this event, reach out to the Pasco Chamber. We already have a waiting list for next year. It'd be great just to make this event get bigger and bigger every year. I think it's just the timing of it couldn't be better. And then finally, I wanted to reintroduce a project that we have going on. My microphone keeps wanting to slip down, so Rob, you'll have fun with that later, and Scott. We've been a peak partner with New Horizons High School for a few years now, and part of the responsibilities is we get involved in a couple of events that they have, but we also request donations. You might have saw the table here. I understand if nobody brought a donation today, but coming up, we have the Dress for Success program. The idea is if you have any business clothes that maybe don't fit, or maybe whatever you need to get rid of, we'd like to donate that to students. They have a bin there, and it's used not only for the students to use for maybe a job interview, but maybe for their families as well too. So if you think about it, especially for our December luncheon, obviously any sort of charitable donation would be good to any sort of organization, but if you have something business specific, they really appreciate that, and I know that we've gotten word in the past that is utilized quite a bit. So we started that pre-COVID. Now that we're on the backside of that, we really want to encourage folks to bring those donations with that. So that's kind of what's going on at the Pasco Chamber. A lot of stuff and getting ready for next year, and a lot of planning as well too. So with that, I'm going to transition over to make an announcement and have Rob come up. We also like to introduce a new member today too. So Julie, if you want to come up. We've had quite a few new members that show up to the Pasco Chamber. I think a lot has to do with Rob is really good with that, but we're really encouraging folks to bring prospective members as well too. Oh yeah, and Kelly's going to take a picture. So when we get a photo, I'm going to have Julie come up and talk a little bit about Bank of Idaho and what they have going on. Help me welcome Bank of Idaho and Julie to say a couple words.
Oops. Well, I'll take it out, I guess. Hey, everybody. I think most of you know me, or some of you do, from being a past president of the Pasco Chamber. It's been a while, though. I think it was the late 90s, but don't tell anybody that because that just shows what age I am. This is also Teresa. She is our Kennewick branch manager. And back in May, several of my team members and myself decided to make a change, and our choice was Bank of Idaho. The CEO of Bank of Idaho is Jeff Newgard. A lot of you probably know him from the past. He actually had Yakima National Bank and then sold it to Home Street. Well, through that transition, he moved to Bank of Idaho and has ran it for about 8 years. And he decided he wanted to come and be a part of the Columbia Basin again. So a loan team went over to Pasco, which we're in the Broadmoor Mall in a temporary location, and then we bought all the home streets in the area. So Yakima, Sunnyside, Kennewick, Dayton, and Spokane. So now we have a great footprint here, and we're planning on really growing it throughout Washington State. We just hit $1 billion in asset size, so we're large enough to do the large stuff, but we still care about the little guys. And of course, we're very active in the ag community, along with anything on the commercial side. And surprisingly so, and as a commercial banker, I've never been able to say this, but even on the consumer side, we've got some pretty competitive rates. So thank you for letting us be a part of the chamber, and we love being in this community.
Thank you. And with that, it's my turn to turn it over to Rob DiPiazza, who is our 2022-23 President, Pasco Chamber of Commerce.
Very good. All right. Thank you for all being here, first of all. Appreciate it. Love being able to see everybody's faces. I mean, I'm still back there a little ways when looking around the rooms and seeing people smile and have a good time. We'd also like to thank Prime Dental, who unfortunately we didn't get you on our schedule as a new member. So we'll catch you next month. All right. Paul, good to see you, buddy. All right. Based on the people that are here, I don't think there's any problem with anybody getting a loan. I mean, you got credit unions, bankers, commercial, anyway. I'd like to, at this time, introduce our keynote speaker, Scott Reese. He was appointed as general manager of Franklin PUD by board commissioners and began in April 2019. Scott is a native of southeastern Idaho and brings extensive experience within the electric utility industry to Franklin PUD. At his previous employment, CERC Energy, all right, got that one right. In Salt Lake City, Scott held the position of Vice President of Transmission and Utility Relations, where he worked at developing renewable energy generation projects. Wow, that was a whole huge mouthful, sorry. His background includes developing renewable energy generation projects. Oh, nope, I skipped over a line. So, you know, he's really a well-rounded guy and he's good at electronics as far as I can tell. Smart, he graduated from Utah State University with a degree in business administration and also has a master's degree in organizational management. Scott's community involvement is widespread. He has been active in the community relations and economic development throughout his career, serving on various economic development boards, Chamber of Commerce boards, and as past chamber president on various organizations while a resident in Utah. Scott is here with his wife, Belle. They have 3 sons and 2 grandchildren. That's it, buddy. I got to the end. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think I mumbled through that just well enough. Scott, come on up and take over.
All right, thank you. We'll see if that'll stay up there. So I'll run that with the clicker up here. Colin, is that okay? All right. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk about Franklin PUD. Before I get into my presentation, what I want you to do is I want you to think about your last experience with Franklin PUD. So think about that. And then I want you to just kind of rock from left to right a couple of times. Nobody's rocking. You got to rock. Okay, there you go. Now, regardless of what I do from this point forward, if anybody asks you how your presentation was at Chamber, say it was thought-provoking and it actually kind of moved me just a little bit. So with that, I hope the experience that you thought about was positive. And one of the things that I want to talk about just briefly here is, you know, we're organized with three commissioners, and our commissioners are, you know, as good as they come. They established our governance policy for our organization. They've established our mission, and we are truly a mission-driven organization. And, you know, that mission requires us to be safe, provide affordable cost-based power, and be reliable in what in that power that we provide. And so we strive to do that. And This map shows the areas of responsibility, the districts that each of these commissioners represent. They're also my bosses, so I appreciate Stu being here, and appreciate that. This organization, this is our organizational structure, at least from my direct reports. And the thing that we've done within my organization is we require our people to have a broad span of control. And so even though you can see these job titles that are on each one of these individuals, we require a lot of them. And so when you see, for example, I won't pick one, but each one of these people have multiple responsibilities within our organization. And we've tried to kind of flatten our organization to a certain extent so that we're close to the front line in what we do. And we've tried to a certain extent, in that span of control, allow the managers and my executive reports to be really close to the front line and to have the decision-making authority to make a difference for our customers, for each of you. And then Ben Hooper, he's there, and if I move along quick enough, Ben's going to have a few minutes to talk to you about broadband. So this is just a breakdown of the utility district. And we currently have 28,050 customers. That, because some customers have multiple meters, it's 34,000 meters that are within our area. The average residential bill is $128.22 per month. You know, that kind of goes up and down. It's and the thing I tell you is that I think is 6.673 cents per kilowatt hour, which if you look at national averages, or if you compare us to California, I mean, the Pacific Northwest is blessed with some of the least expensive power in the United States, and so it's a great place to do business. We have generally about 91 employees. We kind of range, we have transition, and sometimes it's a little lower. Sometimes, we may increase up to certainly not more than 95, but we feel that kind of 87 to 95 range is where we can provide excellent service and do the things we need to do. The great thing that I talked about reliability, and on our system average is 99.99, actually 93% reliable. So we have a really reliable system. 50%, I've got line miles listed there, and the thing that's interesting is 50% of our system's underground about, and 50% of our system's overhead. And so it helps. The thing that's interesting with that is an underground system helps when you have prevailing winds that consistently move through. When you do have an outage, it takes a little bit longer to repair that outage, and sometimes a little bit longer to find that than an overhead line. So anyway, there's good and bads to both, and our operating revenues are just over $100 million. So how do we compare? I mean, I've talked about mission, talked about how it drives us, and we want affordable, cost-based power. So how do we compare to everybody in Washington? And I like this slide. There was one point in time, certainly, I don't know how many years back, but there was one point in time that we were on the high end of this graph. And we've continually, through really effective management, previous general managers to me, we've been on this continuous move to try to get to the lower third within the state. And it takes a lot of effort, a lot of decisions that, looking where you're really forward focused, trying to do some things that are proactive. But there's 30 people in front of us and 27 below us. And if you look at it, there's probably 8 to 10 of us that are really close, just bunched in this group where our rates are, we might have a lower residential rate, somebody might have a higher irrigation rate, or vice versa. And so we're really close in that area. This is a chart that we're really proud of, and I think it speaks highly of how we manage our responsibility in our utility district. And the thing that you can see is we have not had a rate increase since 2017. We're in crazy times right now. All of you know that. And, I feel confident in saying unless there's anything that is really unusual that we see, we won't have a rate increase in 2023. I feel good about 2024, but with the inflation we're dealing with, got a slide here. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But the thing that we're doing is we're managing the utility. I think my group's doing an incredible job, and to have the run that we've had is really phenomenal. I thought you'd find this slide interesting. This just shows load growth. You can see the pandemic had an impact on, kind of that growth trend that we've seen. Not so much on revenues. I mean, our revenues throughout the period continue to be going on this same incline. But we did see a decrease in 2020. But as you look at where we're at and projections moving forward, you can see that we're continuing to plan on substantial growth taking place over the next several years. So that's kind of where we are. Now I want to transition just a little bit into, some of the issues that we're dealing with. And, a lot of these are the same thing that each of you are dealing with in your own businesses. I mean, we have supply chain inflation, workforce issues. How do you deal with the changing workforce, especially coming out of COVID? Arrearages on past due and write-offs. And then for us, there's certainly legislative issues associated with our industry that really have significant impacts on us. And so, I know this will be a surprise, but I'm old enough that I've been in this industry a long time. I thought, when I came up here, probably really naively, I thought I pretty much dealt with every issue in this industry that I will see. Then all of a sudden you have a pandemic that hits. And it's like, nope, never dealt with a pandemic before. But so you roll with that. You roll with the pandemic and you do the best you can. And then now we come out of the pandemic and this just incredible inflation, especially within our industry that we're dealing with. So let me go through and we'll talk a little bit about this. So a common transformer that we use especially when there's new subdivisions being built, they're called 25 kVA transformers. If we were to go back in 2020 and look at that transformer and go out for purchase on it, it would have cost us $1,400 with a lead time of 12 weeks. So, it's fairly reasonable. It's easy to plan for that. And these are actuals. We went out in January of 2021, and there was a 9% increase that hit us. And the lead times went to 14 weeks. So you say, well, that's 9%. That's kind of lame. 16 weeks, you can still deal with that. In November of 2021, we went out again. There was an 89% increase in those same transformers. Standard transformer, and then all of a sudden lead time jumps to 40 weeks. Then we go out again in June of 2022, 82% increase, 100 weeks. And then the thing that happened is we went out in October of this year, and we received no bids. Well, that's a standard transformer. It's a transformer that when you have developments taking place, a developer, you expect us to have that transformer in stock, and so when you get no bids, but the reason we got no bids was because nobody wants to guarantee the price out. Your lead time's 3 years, and nobody wants to guarantee price. And so you sit there as in this, in the situation we're in, it's like, well, we don't want to have to send out a letter, stating sorry. When they come in, they'll come in. So, you work through that. There's some things that we certainly have planned. I mean, we have a transformer shop. We will probably refurbish more, than what we currently, we generally would scrap or send them off to somebody else. But, we'll most likely end up refurbishing more of those transformers than we have previously to get through that. I thought you might find this interesting. This is just our workforce, and this is kind of a COVID transition that we've done. As we immediately separated our organization. And pre-COVID, if you had told me that we would have remote employees, I would have said, no, we're not going to go that direction. It doesn't work for us. But now that we've gone through this transition on COVID, we're going to remain with probably about just over 20%, of our employees will continue to work remote. And based on the tools that we brought in, you say, well, how can you do that? How do you ensure that as a customer, we're getting value out of those customers that you have working in remote locations, generally at their home? The thing that's amazing is the tools that have been put in place, whether it's, utilizing Teams on meeting with employees and seeing who's online, who's working when, or just production majors, we have the opportunity to track that. And so we do feel that in many cases, in a few cases, I would say we've seen productivity actually increase with remote employees. It's an employee benefit, we believe. So anyway, we'll stay remote. Plus, we believe that it keeps our employees healthier. In some ways that, people don't like using personal leave for sick leave. I think that's changed a little bit with the pandemic, but still kind of hurts to have to use some of those days to off. And so I think we have a healthier organization. This is a really good story on this chart and it's just, I can't speak highly enough of our customers, of each of you, and especially in the residential area. So this chart shows our 60, 90-day aging, and we've always had a fairly low aging on 60, 90-day. It's been good, but then during the pandemic, the thing that happened is you can see at one point in time, we were close to $500,000 in past due accounts. If you threw in the 30-day, which isn't as good a measurement, I don't believe, we were over $1 million in aging at one point in time, and highly concerning. But the thing that happened was in around the end of 2020, they came out with the CARES funding. We worked with both the city and the county, and some of those funds were provided to us to help customers that were struggling on their bills. And so you can see that's what that dramatic shift is that takes place at the end of the year on 2020. Well, then pandemic continues, and we increase dramatically as we move through that, and it gets really high. And then ARPA funds came out, and we're really appreciative. We worked really well with the city of Pasco. City of Pasco provided ARPA funds to us, and you can see the dramatic benefit that happened with ARPA. And then from that point on, that downward trend is truly customer driven. And you say, well, Scott, why, if you ask this question, why do you spend so much time on this? The reason that this slide is important is because I talked about the need to keep rates low. The thing that happens for any public utility is if we get in a position where we end up having to write these accounts off, all of us end up having to pay for that write-off. And it does have a direct impact on our rates. And so the fact that our customers, I believe, recognize the importance of being current on bills has truly paid off. I mean, right now I think we're running just under $30,000 in past due accounts on 60/90, which is phenomenal. I'd venture to say there is no utility in Washington that has a lower 60-90-day aging. So truly speaks to our customers and their ability to make those tough decisions and keep bills current. So the last one, I think this is the last one I talk about. We'll see. Maybe there's one more slide. I want to talk about legislation. And legislation really has an impact on us. And the thing that, as we look at the electrification of the economy, really is going to be this next thing that we're going to deal with. And if all vehicles sold, for example, by 2030 are electric, which I think our governor's pushing for, then all those electric cars, I'm not so concerned about a trickle charge in a garage. That doesn't have substantial impact on our system. But as soon as somebody starts putting fast chargers in that garage, then all of a sudden, that 25K pad mount transformer I talked to you about isn't going to be big enough. You know, it may not be big enough. And so then it's like, okay, and the conductor, it's not just the transformer, the conductor in some cases, if you're going with a fast charge, that conductor may not be big enough, especially on older parts of our system. So then you have to go back in and fix things. How am I doing on time? Pretty close. Okay. So the thing, I've got to leave time for Ben. So clean energy mandates. The thing that's interesting is, I'll combine these two, L&I, well, it's not L&I, the building code. There's a building code requirement that just came out that's supposed to go into effect in July, and it's requiring a heat pump, electric heat pump on every new built home. And so it puts I believe, you know, I won't speak for any contractor, but I think it puts a contractor in a difficult situation because, especially here, where you have to have some sort of secondary heat on that heat pump because our temperatures drop low enough that it's just not going to cover. So you spend the money on the heat pump, then you have to spend money on secondary heating, whether that's natural gas or whether it's another form of, electric heat. Has an impact. And so as we look at those types of requirements, it's like, okay, again, have you considered the impact on the consumer in addition to the becoming clean, which we're committed to? We're committed to being a clean energy provider when it comes to the types of fuel that we use or the types of generation. But we look at that impact and we definitely want to be involved, and we want people within our industry involved in those decisions so that we can specifically state what the impact's going to be on the industry or on us and on ultimately on our rates. The elimination, it's our feeling and my feeling as well, that the elimination of some of these baseload fuels, natural gas is deemed a baseload fuel, coal's a baseload fuel, nuclear is a baseload fuel. I mean, those are all resources that they're non-intermittent. We can count on them with high reliability. When you have an overdependence on intermittency, with solar wind, then all of a sudden it creates an instability within the electrical system, not just here, but throughout the Pacific Northwest, throughout California. That's why you get some of these warnings that there may be instability. So we don't want to see, we don't want to see the banning natural gas, at this point in time. Ultimately, it makes sense, but we need that baseload generation. And until there's an alternative, until there's a cleaner baseload alternative, at least that's my personal belief. And it's coming from a person that, has been actively involved in the industry and geothermal development, which is a baseload renewable. Heat exposure, again, we take safety as a top priority within our industry. We have our own training. L&I came out with proposed ambient temperature guidelines that if the temperature goes over 100 degrees, could be wrong a little bit on this, it's either 100 or 105, that for every hour you're out, you need 30 minutes of break time. That does not work for us. It creates significant problems. And we feel like we do a job, because we take safety at such a high level, we do significant training on safety, we believe that we have the ability to monitor that. And then lastly, of course, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but removal of Snake River dams is just absolutely, in our book, is non-starter. I mean, maybe it gets back into the same thing as natural gas. Maybe someday, in the distant future, when nuclear or some other alternatives there in baseload that's inexpensive, that may make sense, but today that decision would have such a negative impact on us. And pre-inflationary times, studies were done in the industry that anticipated that the impact would be a minimum of 26% increase on our utility bills with removal of Snake River dams. That's pre-inflation. So the thing I would tell you today is if you take those out with nothing to replace them as far as a baseload renewable resource, the difficulty is the increase in rates and instability on the transmission grid. So I think those are the things I wanted to cover. Oh, one more quick pitch before I turn it over to Ben real quick is I want to give a plug for Smart Hub. If you don't have a Smart Hub app, you ought to download the Smart Hub app. Put it on your phone, and especially we've installed smart meters for the most part throughout our system, and they allow you to really kind of see what your usage patterns are. I think it's worthwhile. It becomes educational. I took a call from a customer that she said, Scott, what you're doing is you're pushing power into my house. That's how my bill's so high. And I said, no, we can't push power. I don't know how that works. I've never seen anything like that. And, I said, as we talked about billing, I said, it's temperature related. I said, and she goes, well, but I don't change anything. She said, I use the same in January. All my settings are the same in January, but my bill goes up in January and it goes up in July. But it's not heat related. And it's like, it's heat related, And so that's the Smart Hub app, there's actually a deal. You can turn on the temperature thing, and it shows the temperature on the day and it shows your usage. And, as I look at my own personal usage, I can tell you, on those hot days, I can see the kilowatt hour use in my house, just go up right with that temperature and then right back down. It provides you with an opportunity to see what you're doing. And then lastly, the thing that I tell you is we're looking for ways to hit that 2024 no rate increase. And so, we're looking for ways to do that. Well, one of the ways that we're doing is on this app, it allows you to go paperless. We spend $240,000 every year in mail outs of our bills. And I can tell you, we've set a goal in 2023. Hopefully you don't get tired of it, but you'll see several notifications on, hey, you can go paperless. And here's the advantages of going paperless. And it helps us, what that does, it helps us find just another area that we can help keep those rates as low as we can. So I'm going to turn it over to Ben, and then if we have time for questions, we'll take questions. So thank you, I appreciate that. And Ben, here you go.
See if I can figure this out here. So Scott asked me to come talk about broadband. For those of you who don't know, PUD has a fairly extensive wholesale broadband network, all fiber and some wireless in the area. Today, basically we have 33 service providers. You could usually call those ISPs. They're Pocket INET, Telco Wire and Repair, and a host of others. We serve the whole county, over 350 miles of fiber. We go from the south all the way up to the north, out to Colotus, pretty much everywhere. 3 full-time employee, myself. I have an engineer, Brent Weatherman, and Fred Wells is my tech. We are a part owner of Northwest Open Access Networks, NOAANET. Some of you may know them, very prevalent in the state. And some of our service locations, obviously Pasco, Connell, Colotus, Basin City, Mesa, Eltopia, Merrill's Corner, and lots of other places. A lot of farmers we serve. Some of our service offerings. We do what we call lit fiber. That is basically we're handing anything from 10 megabits up to, this says 10 gigabit. We can actually go faster than that if we want to. No one wants to pay for that, obviously. It's expensive. And the service providers can put whatever they want on it. Voice, internet, security, connect your business together. Doesn't matter. We do a bunch of wireless, primarily Connell, Colotus, and some of the outlying areas where it's real expensive to build that last mile. But we can still serve people on it. See, we do wholesale internet also. We just recently turned up a new 10 gig all the way to the Weston over in Bellevue. We're using that to provide that to our RSPs who then provide it to our end users. One of the biggest things we're doing now, and we've done it for years, is co-location. At our main location at 1411 West Clark. We had a co-location room for years. It finally filled up. People came to us and asked us for more. So we're like, okay, we have more space in the building. Started building out. Now we've got a lot more space because we have fewer employees, we have offices. So we're doing co-location suites for folks. Private rooms, 24/7 access. We give you space, power, air conditioning, the whole 9 yards. It's strictly whatever you want to put in it. It can be data backup, it can be remote storage for something else, it can be a disaster recovery location. Doesn't really matter. We are getting ready to start building a new one, hopefully this year, or this coming year, out at our CT site. It'll be about another 2,000 square feet. And that'll be next year. Let's see what else we got here. And that's some of our future plans. We are working on more grants. Washington State Broadband Office, CURB, Public Works Board, to start building more out in the rural areas where it's the most expensive. Connell, Basin City, Mesa, doing some more stuff outside of Pasco proper, because we can't apply for monies inside of Pasco. It's considered served. Establishing a new colo facility. We're currently building a whole new wireless network. We actually have some testing going on that this week, I believe, that we're partnering with one of our service providers. They have about $1 million to spend. If we do it right, should cover about 90% of the county of speeds of up to 100 megs. And then just continuing growing our fiber infrastructure, where we can get it in a trench, where we can get pipe in the ground, anywhere we get a notification of it, we'll build it. And we provide the pipe, the hand holes, and do all that kind of stuff. We'll even do some of the engineering for it. And that's about it. Any questions?
Yeah, are there any questions? Any questions at all that we can answer in the final minute or two? Yeah.
Yeah, Scott, Phoenix Park, I do have a question. You mentioned the electric heat pumps and how this will be a requirement for all new homes beginning in July. And so that will increase significantly the need for electrical power. Two points. One is a comment that it would seem that this would be a good argument to use for our saying to the governor, we need to keep these dams, because all of a sudden we have significantly greater requirements for electricity, and what greater electricity can be produced than by hydroelectric power. But that's one point on that. Secondly, how are we preparing the community for this new change? In addition to work with contractors, are you reaching out to the community to see if those who are currently on gas or propane heating systems want to convert to electricity, to work with them into the system and doing that?
Yeah, good question. So on outreach, up to this point in time, and I think you'd find this with most utility districts within the state, the thing that happens is we're taking a neutral, there's not legislation or law at this point in time. We've seen some of the agencies that have stepped in, like the Building Code Council, that's pushing for this heat pump change. I think that there'll be some protests filed with some developers throughout the state, so I don't know that it will hit in July. Certainly, that's the plan today. So it's a concern, I'll get to your question, but it is a concern having agencies push for what we believe should be legislative decisions and legislative discussion. So I think that that's an issue that's out there as well. As far as the outreach, we are taking, at this point in time, we're taking a neutral position where we'll educate. I mean, that's part of the thing that we feel a responsibility to, is to educate when it comes to usage and how to conserve and how to really do things to, help you understand what your usage patterns are. But at this point in time, we are not actively out saying, look, this is what you need to do to become total electric. That time may come. So, good question. Anything else? Yeah.
Scott, I'd love to ask the off-the-wall question, but over the last couple of years, we saw really just how much power the government can initiate into our lives and everything like that. And with the advent of all these smart meters on everybody's homes and all that kind of stuff, what safeguards are there from the government weaponizing our smart meters and just arbitrarily saying you aren't fitting this agenda or doing that and you're in the dark now? Are there any safeguards like that in place to protect us?
Yeah, let me speak to it, and then I'll have and over our meter group as well. So I'll let him take a minute or two on it. But so it's interesting to see the information on smart meters, and I mean, we don't have the capability with that meter. I think that some people think we have the capability to see beyond that meter panel into your home and basically see what's going on. You know, we can't do that. I mean, we get to the meter panel, we can tell you how many kilowatt hours you're using. The way that the meter works is it's like a text message actually that goes out. It's it's a pulse meter, and so over a 24-hour period, there's just a little bit more than 60 seconds of pulse reads that go out. The thing that I've said, and I'll continue to say, is I have not been contacted by any government agency, saying, hey, we want this information. That information is, we have a extensive cybersecurity program within our own entity, within the utility district, to make sure that people can't come in and take our information. And so it would be a breach of that that cybersecurity program for them to come in. And we have no interest in monetizing data. We don't have any interest in providing any data to any other government entity other than Franklin PUD. So the other thing that I'd add is, from our standpoint, the benefit of moving to a smart meter it provides the customer with more information. That's great. But from our side, what it tells me is, when go back to the 25 kVA transformer. What it tells me is, are we overloading those 25 kVA transformers on a consistent basis now? Because all that data comes in, and right now I can't, unless I set up a specific test, I can't look at that transformer. I can't look at the 3 phases that go into that transformer. And so this program truly does allow us, and we are starting to use the analytics and the data to, again, get to where we're highly efficient on what we're doing. Does that?
Yeah, if I could just clarify a little bit, I wasn't so much worried, about any of that stuff. But is there anything keeping the government from just saying, this person isn't adhering to this wider agenda that we have, therefore they should be in the dark till they conform to what we want? Is there safeguards for the consumers from keeping us from being put in that position? Because we saw over the last couple of years where the government just said, you're not doing this, so we're going to pull your permit here or your license here.
Yeah, the thing that I tell you, I believe there are safeguards. The thing I tell you now is, if a policeman from the city walked into the PUD and said, I'd like to know information on this customer, would tell them, go get a warrant. We can't provide you with information. And so we don't provide specific information. That's at the local level, and we're not going to provide information at state or federal level. So that's my position. I don't think it's going to change. Anything on that, Ben?
No, I mean, you hit the cybersecurity. This is a closed system. They have to come to us to do anything with it. It's behind numerous firewalls and other protections in place, encrypted radio waves and things of that nature. The only operators are us. They have to come to us to get into this system. Not saying it's not impossible to possibly get into it. I mean, we've seen it on the news. Things happen, people make mistakes. But with our rules and regs, our local governance and all that, it's like Scott said, they have to come to us, and it's either going to be a warrant or something to that effect for us ever to give up any of the information on the system, or even operate it.
Anything else? I think, what time we got? 12:59, right on time.
Right on time.